Hello and welcome to another episode of Chestnut Checkers. My name is Keith Riddle, and as usual, I'm here with my co-host Jordan Tampien. And today our guest is Kristen Ward.
Hi.
With Ivory Table.
Nice to be here.
So good to have you.
So good to have you here. So I always start with this question because I feel like it's a great one to start with, and I'm just curious. But are you a Spokane native?
I consider myself to be one. Yeah. I went to grade school here, and then
It's pretty native.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Grade school on here?
Yeah,
or did
I went to Freeman actually as a kid.
Oh yeah.
Went to grade school there, and then I went to Ferris and kind of. But I grew up here. Yeah.
Nice. Where are you from officially?
Well, I was born in the Midwest.
Okay.
But my parents moved a lot. But I spent most of my life in Washington State, and then I was in Seattle quite a bit too. So my dad's there, my mom's here. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Spokane, and then you mentioned Seattle. Did you leave or exodus after like high school or college?
I did,
Yeah.
as so many of us
smart.
Spokanites do. I left after high school, right when high school was over, and then I left, went to Seattle for 12 years and came back. Came back after I had a child.
And these are leading questions, but I think you did kind of some cool stuff in Seattle. Like, what did you do when you left?
Well, I did a lot.
more.
I did a lot of cool things there. I went to culinary school right out of high school, and had some incredible opportunities with that. I was able to get hired in France. I worked in France for a little while.
Wow.
Taught some cooking classes, and that was just like such a dream, but it was a dream that was coming easily to me. And I was like, wow, this is a talent that I have naturally, but I really wanted to be a singer. And so that was another dream I had. And I thought, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can do that. And so I went ahead and just gave it a shot for 5 years. I said, I'm going to do it for 5 years. And if I still like it, I'll do it for another 5 years. Well, that turned into like 12 years. And I put out a bunch of albums and recorded and toured and had a great time.
That's awesome. So we're not going to make you sing today, by the way. You don't.
Oh,
you
wait,
could.
I'm warmed up. No, just
okay,
kidding.
well, you totally can. But when you say you thought you'd give it a shot, were you singing at all, like when you were younger? Like
I was.
Like formally, like in like choir? or in a
Not
quartet?
formally.
Yeah, I don't know
I
what to call
never
it.
had any formal lessons to anything like that. I just would sing as a kid around my house, but it was always a dream. I just wanted to be a singer and a songwriter. And I wrote songs, and I had played the guitar, which I also never had lessons for. So I just...
So that
picked it up.
moment when you said, "Hey, I want to give this a shot," what did that look like for you, like strategically? Like, did you have to did you just start going to open mics? Did you have to get an agent? Did you know people in the industry? I mean,
it was weird. I was actually flying over the Atlantic Ocean. I was coming back from France, and I just made the decision that when I hit the ground running, I'm just going to hit the ground as a different person. And I just like when I stepped off the plane, I was like, I'm going to be a singer. And so. Another goal of mine was actually to be a painter. So I love art. Like I'm an artist in a lot of different ways. But I got this little apartment in Queen Anne Hill, in Seattle.
Yeah.
And I bought a bunch of canvases and paint. I just went down to like the local local art store, and I was like, I didn't know anything about painting, but I thought I'm just gonna go ahead and try this. And so I started painting in my place, and and I was painting these like large scale flowers. And I had a buddy that had a plant store, and he was like, hey, you can come and show your art in my plant store. And so that was on Ballard Avenue. And I put all my art in there. One night we opened a bunch of wine and opened the doors, and I sold $10,000 of work in the first night. And I never had money like that. I mean, I was a cook, right out of, I was in my early 20s. And that money turned into the money that I used for my first album. And so right around that time, I ended up meeting a producer. His name is Brad Zeffrin, and he ended up just being a wonderful musical force in my life. He's an incredible person. He's in Nashville now, and he was just like, let's do this, let's record. And I just aligned with a lot of incredible musicians in Seattle, and they liked my work, and it just
what
started
year
to come
is
together.
this? Is circa is this late 90s, early 2000s?
That would have been early 2000s, so that was 2002, 3. Let's see, maybe 2003 was my first album. I think I'd have to go back and look.
So you
skipped a lot of steps,
right? Yeah, this is
Most
crazy.
people don't jump right to their first album. Right?
Well, I know. It was funny. Well, the guy, he and I, we had a relationship actually, and I remember saying, "I want to be a singer so bad." And he's like, "Well, just play." We started out going to open mics, and then I got a pedal steel player in my band. It was just me and him and Brad in my living room. And then, eventually I met some other really great musicians, and it was just got the guts to go to a little bar, and sing a couple songs, and then that turned into just meeting people. People would hear my stuff and be like, wow, this, it just came together. And that's all I was doing. Like one of the decisions over the Atlantic Ocean was that I wasn't going to go back and jump back into that passion of cooking. Cooking takes so much like artistic energy and like force mentally, like to run a kitchen, to think of ideas, to think of plate presentations, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I'm going to put all of my creative efforts into trying to be the painter thing happened. And that was kind of fleeting. I just sort of did it and I got the money. And then I was like off to the races because what I really wanted to do was stand on big stages and sing. So
what happens if you wouldn't have got the money? How would you have?
I would have had to figure it out. Was that the idea when you did art? Was like, hey, if I do enough art, I can sell enough to do music? Or no,
just I love art, so I'm gonna go do it.
I just did it, and then it was just like I had a feeling that it was like a sign from the universe, and I was like, holy crap, this is it. So I just need to like keep the ball rolling and just run with this. So I just did, and I had several people approach me and say, hey, are you painting more? Are you painting? And I was like, no, I'm not. And I still paint. I like to paint, but I knew that first passion was music. So
that's amazing. So I'm always looking for like patterns and parallels, and me and Jordan have got this great podcast so we get to talk to the people. But the premise of the show is like chestnut checkers, and it's like clever play on words, but ultimately it's also like that's one of the things that we notice was like when we look around, there seems to be people in life that are playing the game a little differently, right? Not necessarily better or worse, just different. And one of the things that I love that you said was like you just made a decision in a moment in time, and that you were going to just be a different person or be that person, right? And I think that's so I don't know, like simple. But elusive to people, right? Like you want to write a book, it's like, well then write. You want to sing, it's like sing. But I think so many times we put these artificial roadblocks in front of us of like, there's this path that I have to take because this is the path that most people take to be a real estate developer, to be a musician. And so we kind of almost hold ourselves back from just like that kind of like act as if notion, right? Yeah. Like, well, just be a singer.
It's harder when you get
an artist,
when you
right?
own more things. You know, when you own more and have more balls to like juggle and you tend to think it's harder. I've noticed as I've accumulated, either whether it's assets or just like properties or built my own business now with the food, which is like this whole other creative pursuit. It's harder, I find now to just, but I work to do that. I work to wake up and I think, okay, when I get out of bed this morning, when my feet hit the ground, I'm going to hit the ground as this person or that person. And not like I have a personality problem. It sounds like I've split personality.
Like all geniuses do.
But it does. There's something to that kind of just making that decision to take the leap. So
and make the decision. I think that's really cool because I think most people, at least I'm putting myself in your shoes there, and I would start thinking about every way it wouldn't work. Like every hurdle that I'd have to overcome and what it would be. And I think sometimes it just causes a paralysis. But
it starts like a failure to launch syndrome, right? Like you just don't start because you're either seeing the problems or you're seeing the reason why not. And for me, I think that's
Like what did your parents say when you told them you were
they were supportive. My dad was always kind of like, well, you always like to take big bites, Kristen. That's what he'd always say. You always like to just bite off. And I'm like, never, more than I can chew. He has this, a few of these little sayings he likes to say. I think he was a bit more cautious, but, really, I didn't ask anybody's permission. Yeah. I just went for it. I was like, I'm making money. I'm supporting myself. I put myself through school. I'm doing whatever I want to do. So I'm just going to do this. And that's usually how I conduct my life. I just do what I want.
I know.
Like, I just do what I want. I mean, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I have to and in business, there's a lot of things you have to deal with that you don't want to do. The day-to-day.
Yeah, I mean, we all got to, swallow the frog.
Yeah.
When we don't want to. But I love the notion, and we don't have to get stuck here, but I love the notion and I love that lesson. And I think like when I think of my kids or people that I hope that as they go through life that they have that spirit, right?
Yeah.
Like that they're able to just make a decision and say, you know what, like this is what I want to be. And so now I'm going to go I call it like act as if, right? Well, then you just got to go act as if that's who you are. Right? Yeah. And I think I've seen a hair of this, and I'm sure Jordan has too, of like when you get to a level of success, people will ask you like how you did it, or they look to you for advice or inspiration. And I think anytime that's happened, a lot of times people are talking to you and you're like,
Yeah.
in your mind, I'm like, you think I'm way better than I am, right?
It's just a podcast, let me tell you.
Like, you think that I am way more figured out than I am.
That's
You know,
funny.
you're like, oh no, actually, I was just flying by the seat of my pants and
Yeah.
just, doing it. But that's so pivotal and true, I think, with success. So,
Yeah.
not to get stuck there, but that's an amazing decision. But
But it kind of lends to everything because I've kind of met you post that. But like
Mm-hmm.
all of those, like if mine go and I usually have this like burn the ships mentality
Mm-hmm.
because I found if I gave myself an out, I would find that out.
That's
I'd
it.
find a way to get to the out. And now it's like,
100%.
hey, if I'm going to start this bad boy's running until
100%.
somebody really smart says that's just a bad business, Jordan.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that saved me more times than not. And watching some of the stuff with like Brick West now, even like that, it would have been so easy to be like, you know what, maybe the business just doesn't work. And you're like, no, the business will work, and we're going to continue to grow it. And but then now all of a sudden, all your businesses make sense to me because that is you. That's so true.
Yeah, it's I love. I mean, business is exciting. But, I heard somebody say the other day they were talking about business, and they're like, don't it was actually I was reading a book about systems, and that's something that I'm actually having the discipline to learn later now. Is like, it's one thing to start a business; it's another thing to build systems in your business. And the guy was talking about how people think that that's not like a form of art. And like how you do anything is how you do everything. It's like if you approach things in a creative manner. So I've been really getting into that, like saying like you can still have an artistic form of systems, or like you can be as creative until I just don't really. I mean, advice is great. Go ask for advice. Find mentors. That's huge. But a lot of times, if you just make decisions without knowing better, you can kind of find your way, like that. Hence the Atlantic Ocean decision. So anyway, but
and I think every time, so mentors are great and advice is great, and I think every time you go seek it, my advice to people is always like, take that advice with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Right. It's so easy to go take advice from someone, whether it's your parent figure, your father, your grandfather, or business, and they say, well, this is what you need to do. Yeah. And then you kind of go like, well, then this is exactly what I need to do. And I was thinking maybe doing this way, but I'm going to trash that idea now because this is what, grandpa told me. And it's like, I understand, like, again, that creativity that you have for your systems, like, I think the double-edged sword is like, if you get too creative, then the systems don't work.
Totally.
So it's like, well, take some advice from some people, but don't get so rigid to think that like all of a sudden you got to become like an engineer and build spreadsheets and have all your tables and, so it's like,
well,
it's
then
a
I've
balance.
wasted the last 3 months. No,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just kidding.
That's what I've been doing.
Crap, undo it all.
But it's so true because I even think of the advice I would give somebody now having gone through all of it. Mm-hmm. And it's going to, no matter how you take it, somebody's going to give you advice based off their experience.
Yeah.
Well, if the 12-year ago Jordan came to me and said, hey, do you want to start a brewery? I'd be like, well, here's the 15 things you better check on. Versus that one was like, what? We can do a brewery? This is cool.
Well, we've had
it's
this
like
conversation.
there's this like you almost have to have an ignorance to
That's what I mean.
some of the things, but it's really hard because now I'm like, I know what every one of those guys were telling me.
Yeah.
These are the parts. And so to Keith's point, it's like trying to figure out a way to marry the two where it doesn't take away that creativity and that sense of what you're building, but still layering it with systems. There's got to be some caution. I never had much caution, right? And so,
huge caution. I think the more you learn, you're just more cautious about everything. Sometimes when people say, how did you do all this or do that? It's like, well, I just didn't know better. I just didn't know what I was getting into at the time.
Well, we've had that conversation a lot too of like, there's like, if someone were to say, would you go back and do it again or would you do it different? We always answer that question. But then there's other times where it's like, well, we just wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, was it better just to kind of do it naively and get myself in a little bit of like, hard spots and get out? Because otherwise I just like, Brick West just wouldn't exist. No. Like a lot of the things I did they wouldn't even exist. And now I'm like, well, they're cool, great things. I'm glad I did it. I wouldn't want to ever do it that way again.
Yeah.
But had I known what I know now, it just wouldn't have happened. Yeah. And then how sad is that? Right?
It would have been sad.
Yeah.
And Brick West is awesome. I love that place.
So good. Yeah.
It's so cool.
Well,
everyone should
like
go.
your music or whatever, right? Like how many people have heard your music or seen you perform and never would have, right?
If you wouldn't have made one decision on an airplane.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy to think. You have me spinning in my head of if I have a one decision moment. I don't yet, but I'm going to spin back.
Today.
Well, I want to circle back a little bit to what you said too, because I love that. And then you said it's harder as I get older.
Yeah.
And I think that lands with me. I know it lands with Jordan, but I think a lot of times, but also in life. And I think the cynical side of me or the pessimistic side of me just says like the reality is as we get older and we get more responsibilities, we also get more downtrodden and we tend to get more cynical, right? So it's one of those things that I fight all the time, especially like I said with having kids, is like not extinguishing their flame, right? Because I think a lot of times what I'm wary of now with that advice piece is that when people come to me for advice, at a time and a place, I used to give it very freely and almost dictatorial, like, oh, well, this is what you need to do, and this is blah, blah, blah. Now I really hold back advice a lot now based on the person who's asking it, and I didn't used to. And it's not just to like not extinguish their flame, but it's also like, I could tell you exactly what I did to build my last business, and you might not be able to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Or I might not be able to do what you like. I can't just go start making art tomorrow and make 10 grand and launch it, right? So it's hard to say, hey, here's my advice, but this would be my advice for me.
Yeah.
You're not me. So now it's like, well, I don't really want to give you that exact advice because it's like, well, here's some things to look out for, and then you're gonna have to figure it out. You're gonna have to decide if you're passionate about it, and if you are, then there's some minutiae you're gonna figure it out. Like I could tell you what I did, but it's not gonna be applicable to your situation necessarily.
It's true, yeah.
A younger version of me, I think, was just ignorant enough to think that I was smart enough to tell everybody, this is what you do.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was like, that's actually really bad advice.
But it's funny I thought coming out of this, I'd get like a ton of, that's why I take my notes, like ton of technical one-liners and ways to tweak it. And everybody had this magic formula individually of how they were successful. Because so far we've had pretty awesome guests, you included, right? And then what I found out was like, nope, same 5 patterns. It's grit. It's perseverance. It's it's going to be hard things. Keep going through it. And it's thinking ahead. And I'm like, man, that's my new advice. So when somebody comes to me now, should I become a real estate agent or not? And I said, well, that's not really the question.
Yeah.
Right? Do you want to be a real estate agent? Yes. Okay. So you already answered it. Just know going in, it's going to be hard. And you're going to face really hard times. And you just have to keep going.
Yeah.
When you screw up and you're going to learn. And like, I just remember I had an old coach that used to say, Keith, I don't mind if you make mistakes, but let's try not to make the same one twice.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's what I see more with like entrepreneurs, even in my own journey, is like when I get in that spot where I'm like, damn it, I did it again. Completely different business.
So frustrating.
3 years later, and I'm in a similar spot that I'm like, I didn't pay attention to this. I got impulsive. I didn't need, and it's like, oh, I'm here again, and it's my fault, right? But it's like that. It's a double-edged, or it's the double whammy of like, now I'm here, but I shouldn't be here because I've done this before and I'm here again,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So going back to your singing.
Yeah.
And you're in this moment of life, which I'm assuming is pretty amazing. You're young 20s, you're in Seattle, you're an artist, you're living your dream. How did the business end of things start to evolve into your life?
So I ended up, it was, I think I had put out at that point 4 albums, and I ended up meeting someone I fell in love, and I ended up having a baby. And so he was from the east side of the mountains, and I always sort of dreamed of moving back to the country and sort of being in a more rural environment. And I ended up moving out to George Washington. We lived in a single wide trailer, and I had a baby there, and I lived there for 2 years, and I completely transformed again. I just completely transformed my life again. And while I was out there, I had a lot of time to think, as you could imagine.
In George Washington, yes.
And I did. I used to go back and I would sing shows. I would still go back to Seattle and sing. And that's always been something I've continued to love and want to do. But it started to occur to me like I have responsibilities that I might need to just, I was thinking towards the future, like, where is this going? Do I still want to go traveling? Do I still want to be on, driving to California, driving down the West Coast? Like, how do I want to actually be with a new baby, And I didn't really want to do that anymore. I just found that I wanted to be closer to home. I wanted to raise her. And so I started actually just dreaming kind of again about food. I started thinking again about like, well, what could I do? And I thought, well, maybe I could lead like culinary tours, because that's what I did in France. I used to teach cooking classes and take them on culinary tours of the Loire Valley. And so I thought, well, maybe I could do that like out in these wine regions, in Eastern Washington. I ended up getting an opportunity. My parents called me and said, there's a gal that's selling her catering company in Spokane. And I was sort of looking for like a window. I was just like, I just need to get somewhere doing something. This like trailer life has been fun. It was great. I grew a huge garden, and I was out there playing my guitar and running around with my dogs and stuff. But I was just like,
How did you land up in George?
Yeah.
So he was a farmer,
Okay.
and he worked for a company. He was a farm manager out there in that all that land out there, and
That basin area or that?
yeah.
Columbia
And sadly,
Basin.
that relationship didn't end up working out, but that was kind of part of me going, okay, I want to be closer to family. And I just decided I was going to buy this catering company in Spokane. Well, that didn't work either. And I was just it's such a
The
crazy
idea
story.
didn't work, or the
the
purchase?
actual purchase and sale of the actual purchase did not work out at the last minute, like the 59th minute. Like, I mean, it really did not work out, So I found
So you
myself.
never bought it, or you bought it and the business
I
didn't
never
work?
bought
Okay,
it.
got
I
ya.
never bought it.
Is
and
that business still in business?
The business, which I shall not name,
Wow.
is still in business. But there was just a lot of interpersonal conflicts with the woman who was trying to sell it. She was, it just didn't work. And so, one of the
I
things,
assume you guys worked side by side for a period of time.
we
to
did
try to
not.
try
We
to
did.
make
I
transition it, or no?
wanted to do that. That was part of the agreement. But in the end, it just didn't work. As a series of disagreements and me finding things in the business, it just didn't work out. And so we came to this point. The day I was actually signing the paper, going over to actually purchase the agreement or purchase the business. And I had this feeling of this is not the direction I should go. And she was holding this pen, the person in the company who I shall not mention. Yeah. And she said, no one knows your name here. No one knows who you are. And she had this pen and she was waving it in my face, doing this, no one knows who the hell you are. And you're going to be a nobody in this town. And she slammed the pen down and said, "If you've wasted my time," because there were some very major red flags in the purchase of this business, and I had brought those concerns up. And she slammed this pen down, and I grabbed the pen, and I clicked it a few times, and I looked at her, and I said, I'll take my chances. And I put that pen in my back pocket, and I got in my car and I drove off. I got rerouted onto East Sprague as I was driving, which is the street we're on right now. And I parked in front of a little cafe called the Flying Pig, and which is hilarious because it's like when pigs fly. The chances of this happening the whole story is crazy. I walked in there, and the guy there was a gal working there, and I said, "Hey, do any of these businesses down here have commercial kitchens or any of these buildings? I just need something. It's pouring rain. I'm back in Spokane. I'm like, what happened to my life? What is going on?"
Were you living here at the time?
I was living in my parents' basement because I had left our house in out near George, and I was back here just trying to get a start, trying to get a footing. I thought I was going to buy this company, get it going. It was a crazy, crazy transition. So I had that pen though, and
I had that pen though.
I ended up calling this guy. So I walk into the Flying Pig. I'll back up, and she says, "Call our owner." And I'm like, "Why? I'm just looking for a commercial kitchen. Is there any place down?" She just call our owner. So I call this guy. And at this point, I think I drove to the liquor store. I was just like, okay, I need a bottle of wine or so. So I call him, and he goes, "Hey, I'm in over my head. I'm actually a contractor. I don't want my business anymore." And I said, "This cafe you don't want anymore?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, what do you want to do with it?" He goes, "Well, you can have it." And I said, "When?" He goes, "Today. Now. Now." He goes, "I need it until the end of the week to get my stuff out of there." I said, "Well, I don't have any equipment to get started." And he said, "You can have the equipment too." And he offered it to me at a less than nothing level. It was $500. And I was like, I got a credit card. I'm in business. Let's get going. So I would, put my little daughter in her little backpack. I'd go down there. I painted the walls. I refurbished the whole place myself. And at the time, I wanted this little house. I used to look at this little house up on Ivory Street, and I loved this little house. I'd drive past it over and over, and it came up for rent, and I moved in at right around that same time, and I named my company the Ivory Table.
Oh, nice.
And it was just literally boom, 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 this bizarre series of events that occurred and turned, now I'm running one of the greatest catering companies in the city, and it just, that's a long-winded answer to your question, but I
feel like it's a Reader's Digest version of answering my question.
It was it just doors were closing, and and that pen that woman I taped that pen to the wall. And every day I would go down and I would write paychecks to my employees, and then I would go and,
With that pen.
live on nothing. I had nothing for years, but I remember looking at that pen and the way it was a token of, it was a reminder of being told what I couldn't do. And I was just like, well, that didn't work out so well for her. So I ended up making a great business, and I wish her all the best of luck, of course. But it was just, you have these stories in business of like the things that got you going, and that was kind of how I got going.
It's funny. I had a great mentor of mine one time when I was building my business, and he said, Keith, look for ex-athletes, like collegiate level athletes, look for ex-military people. And he goes, and never underestimate someone with a chip on their shoulder. And that was his like hiring advice to me.
Yeah.
He was like, if you hire based on these 2 or 3 kind of categories, he's like, you'd probably be okay.
Yeah.
And I love that because you had a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, and sometimes that's what it takes. Is that necessarily, again, great advice? Like, do I want to tell people like, well,
Put a chip on your shoulder?
Yeah, go put a chip on your shoulder.
And there was not a lot of options to back. I mean, I had to make it succeed. That was the thing. I had like, you just didn't, I was starting over from, I was a stay-home mom for a couple of years living in the middle of the state, and I didn't have really any cash just to start with. And everything I moved here to start doing and all the chances I took to get here, it all just, vaporized in front of me. And so really just the whole thing of pulling up in front of that cafe, and within 1 week I had the building, I had equipment, I had a way to get started. And, it was as if life was just conspiring to help me do this. And I always did want to have a catering company. I always dreamed of doing that. I thought it would be a lot of fun. So I did it.
So do you think that you like manifested some of that? Do you think that was like first creation, second creation stuff? Like,
I think so. I think the thing was I was just listening to my instincts at the time. And I think I really just had a really keen ability. I think that was probably one of my gifts, is just being able to listen to, and face the fear of like, this could all crash and burn, but I just have a feeling that this is not what I should be doing, and take that risk. And that was something, the kind of the last thing I had said to that woman. I said, I'll take my chances, and I did. I took a total chance, and I could have, just gone back to, living in my trailer in Georgia. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I mean, it was just, life was already going in that way, and, coming to Spokane, and I just needed to make it work. And so all the pieces came together really quick in that way. So there's a lot of hard work that followed. That's for sure. That was just the beginning, but yeah.
Well, and going back to those life lessons, I think for me personally, and I don't know about you, Jordan, but I've like found myself in those spots over and over, of like similar spots, and been a little upset with myself. But typically that also correlates with not listening to my gut.
100%.
Right? Like, I feel like I've taken some really big risks and they've panned out, and I've taken some big risks that didn't. But more times than not, when they don't, I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, I kind of knew I shouldn't have done that when I did it, and you ignore that piece of your gut, or that intuition that you have. And I think it's easy to say, like, hey, like, take risks, but listen to your gut. It's hard when the opportunities are big, or the stakes are high, or the payout's big.
Yeah.
Right? Like, hey, I can turn 50,000 into 500 if I do this, and my gut's saying no, but I'm like, but that's a pretty big return, right?
Yeah.
But then those are the ones that usually get you burned, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's one of those definitely life lessons of, I love your story. I also think that you can't underestimate that kind of intuitiveness that you had in those moments.
Yeah.
So give me a little bit of the lay of the land here. So I'm just catching up, but you were in Seattle for about 12 years, you said.
Yeah.
And that was late 90s, early 2000s. And then moved to George.
Yeah.
What was that, a couple years?
Spent a little time there. Yep.
Yeah.
I had lived in Ellensburg too while I was out there. I spent some time right in the middle of the
big
state.
city.
You've been to the big city. Lived
Like
in Ellensburg.
3, 4, 5 years? How old was your...
The whole span of when I was out there was about 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And then you moved back to Spokane.
then I came back to Spokane.
And so you get this catering company. How old's your catering company now?
11 years.
It was about 11 years ago.
So I've been back here for
2014.
been back here for about that long.
Nice.
Just right when I moved here is right when everything just like, because that's when the whole purchase was supposed to happen. And then, but yeah, I started the Ivory Table, and we started as a café.
Yeah.
So I started did crepes and sandwiches and salads and soups and stuff right down here on East Sprague. And then that's how it started. And then it morphed.
Yeah. Now you don't even have the cafe, right?
I don't have
It's
the
just all
cafe.
catering.
I still
And
dream
events,
some
right?
days. We do events there. I sometimes I get crazy and I'm like, well, I need another really difficult and highly non-profitable project. Let's open a restaurant. And so, but I have not done it. I still dream of doing it though.
Yeah. We had Julie Norris on here. And she was talking about Casa and Loren and those. And
Nice.
she's like, yeah, it's fun dreaming them up. And then you got to go run them.
Yeah.
Like,
restaurants are tough.
They're tough.
Yeah. I mean, catering's tough too, but restaurants are really tough.
Yeah.
There's just so much that goes into it.
Yeah.
That's out of your control.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to turn tables. You're dealing with so many external factors for such a small margin. Like the margin is so small. And that even if you run them right and do them well, you'll have a few, but just really difficult. And Washington's really difficult.
It is really
so it's
difficult.
a combination of Washington / low margin business.
I don't know what would have happened. I mean, I have an idea. I mean, I think I would have probably done okay with the cafe, but it was really the East Spread closed down, for the whole renovation. And during that time, if you'd walked out our front door, you would have fallen in a 4-foot pit. I mean, it was to the actual building's edge. They dug this massive pit. And they sent out like this little, just little like nonchalant letter that was like, hey, your business is going to be closed for 2 years. So like make the best of it or whatever. Yeah. And I don't know how long that took, maybe a year.
It was at least a year, yeah.
That was actually a total godsend. That was the moment that I pivoted in the business and decided to invent, or reinvent, so that's kind of how the catering portion came about as we just pivoted into a catering company.
Yeah, because that's kind of when we met. So our office was 2 doors down, our second, but really our first main office. And I remember I was at Snap when they funded the Flying Pig as a restaurant. So we used to go there before, and then this new lady moved into town and started this whole new restaurant. But we'd go over there for lunch. But that street was ripped up most of the time. And ours was easy, right? You're agents and management company, so you can use the side door. You prefer people don't come to the front door. So I remember that being a really interesting time. And now you go down there and you're like, oh, it's probably well worth it. I think there's a lot with the Garland. I got a ton of flack for that. And I said, give it 5 years.
Yeah.
And then watch the businesses that come in, watch the improvements that come in.
Yeah. And a few have stayed. A few have stayed in business. I was one of the tin
Benedito's.
roof. Benedito's did the tin roof. There was a little appliance spot right next door to me. Tiger Tattoo. Yep.
Yep. And then we bought the checkerboard down there.
Yep, that's a cool spot.
Didn't go there, yeah. We sold that one, but yeah, and then you watch the area come together, and you're like, oh, that's great. I'm so glad they did that. And you're like, yeah, but you weren't there when they did it. It was really hard.
It was hard. It was really hard.
You're dodging all this stuff, but it cleaned it up, and
it's beautiful now. I like it down there. I like it a lot. So
going off our like themes of interviews and people, I feel like 2 other themes that I've picked up on are there's just things that are going to happen that you never would think would happen.
Yeah.
And like the prime example we talk about like a lot is like COVID, right? Like no one saw it. It was like what, but there's also just like the city comes in and shuts down your street or something. And I think that to me is another, not something to discourage people from becoming an entrepreneur or going into business, but just something to like almost make them aware of, but then also like say, hey, well, you should plan for that. Like, and there's that conversation of business wise, like you should have some reserves set aside. And you should have like, some ins and outs or alternate plans because there's just things that are going to be happening, but also to not freak out when they do or to almost expect it. And like, I can remember, when COVID happened, it reminded me of like the 2008, 2009 downturn in real estate, right? And but completely different things.
Yeah.
But I just remember like a similar feeling in my gut, right? Like, because the 2000, 2009 downturn in the real estate market was like, it was built by fraud, mortgage-backed security, no one saw it coming because it was kind of hidden, right? Yeah. And it was the same. But it's like it's kind of you earmark these moments, right? And I was talking with you off camera here before of like the building we're in and how I ended up here. It was a similar story.
Totally.
Construction project, dug up half of my patio and I couldn't even get to the front door of my building, right? So anytime you're in business, I think that you can't necessarily prepare for those things, but you also can take some solace in like this conversation or your conversation and just say, okay, like I know that people have dealt with these kind of mini crises or things that came out of the blue and the advice is just like, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you just got to kind of pivot.
Yep.
And I think so often those same things can also be the demise of somebody with weaker resolve.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it also becomes a reason for them to slip into victimology, right? Like, well, dude, my business is ruined, but of course, like the city, I didn't see that. And then it's like this downward spiral of like the coulda, shoulda, woulda, and this is why my business failed, instead of like that kind of happens to everybody who's successful too, right? In some way, shape, or form. And it's just one of those things that you gotta work your way through.
Yeah, and I think some people use COVID that way. Not talking about illness and that part of it from operating a business where it would have been really easy to shut down. Like Brick West, finally, we just dug out of like some of the costs that COVID really had from when you couldn't open the doors, and then next day you could, and then you could have one garage door open, then you could have no garage door open, and you're trying to navigate it. And I think that's my cautionary tale for anybody wanting to get in business. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Some version of that's going to happen to you, a COVID type thing, maybe not as widespread, but something like that.
Yeah.
And it's how do you react in that situation? Like my 08, 09, I didn't live it. I was a professor at WSU. My check came no matter what happened. Like
a lot of people didn't live that.
And so for me, I never really felt the pain about it. And I hear people talk about it, and now I look at what I'm going through now versus, and I'm like, 08, 09, I would have lost it all. Yeah. Because values plummeted.
Yeah.
Everything you would have owned at that point was cut in half or more in some scenarios. Whereas now it's cut back. It's hard to maintain. Banks are a little different now. Lending's a little different. But and I look at that and realize like that is the thing that separates it, right? Because what we don't talk about is the 3 years you didn't take a paycheck after Ivory Table, right? Stars aligned. Yeah. You get this place for $500, but the reality is that's the beginning of the journey.
That's just the beginning. Yeah,
like
so
that's
true.
the piece that starts, and then it's what are you doing every single day? And people think it's done. It's this overnight success, and you're like, no. You go back. Like even you made singing sound that way. It sounded so easy that you were like an overnight success. But I'm like, oh no, knowing you, like no, you were probably working at it. You were connecting. You were doing those things, and I think too many times it's easy to look at something like that and be like, it just happens.
Well, I mean, I love when like people are like, I want passive income, and I'm just like, come on, like, come on, what world are you in? I don't know. I mean, there's some things that can be a little bit more passive.
Treasury bill.
Yeah, and there's gotten definitely not in the lines of work that I've ever picked in my life, but I think it's just how you frame things. I mean, I remember them telling me they were going to shut the street down, and I thought, well, this is terrible. And I saw just the attitudes of so many people on the street were like, oh, this is horrible. And people love to just get on the kind of negative wagon, but I just thought I once again, I just had this, kind of feeling like this is all meant to be. And I thought, well, how do I just kind of pivot? And, and it really blossomed into something. I mean, Ivory Table is a wonderful company. It's so fun. It's so fun to own and run. And I love my staff and my team. I mean, it's just really a kind of a cool existence. Yeah,
that may not have been a full catering company had that not happened.
Exactly, and
could have just been a small cafe.
It could have. Small cafes, restaurants are constant. Catering, you can take time off. You can pick the job. At this point, we pick the jobs we want, and it's just we stay really busy. But it's just a really different.
You also have a tied-in end result, I assume, right? Like you kind of know going into the job, not 100%, but going to a job that you're
you made
profitable or going to be profitable roundabout.
100%.
Like you don't have as much waste, right? You're not necessarily if you do it right and long enough, like I'm sure you have. Yeah. You take on a job and you're like, I know that this job's gonna take this much time. Here's the issues I might run into, and I'm going to make this much money. Exactly. It's a little bit different than like I'm going to open next Wednesday
and hope people show up.
And hope people show up and buy the stuff while it rots really quickly. Food is so perishable, you know. And I went down and spoke to the college recently to all the culinary students and just gave a little lecture to them about. Well, I had a little ulterior motive because I was hoping just to get some really great workers, which I did. I got some wonderful students that now work for me, but I was just talking to them about how hard it is to open restaurants and sort of the startup costs as opposed to the startup costs of a catering company, the profitability. I mean, restaurants you have to have, you have the hostess, you have the dishwasher, you have of the bartender, the bussers, the servers, all of these people just standing around waiting for that person to come in. And every time I go into a slow restaurant, I think there's eight
I just do the
staff.
math in my
I just
head.
do the math in my head. I think, okay, my lunch just covered like half of 1 hour or maybe 1 hour for one person. There's 8 of them standing here. And, electricity and the gas has to keep running. And the alarms have to all be set, and the insurance has to keep. I mean, there's so many costs. The laundry bill, just the laundry for these things. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do a lot of that in cater. I mean, there is a certain amount of it. I now own the building, and it's that's great. And so there's upkeep and things like that. But it's just so much more of a calculated mission. When you go in, you know exactly, or you just don't take the mission. You just don't. You're able to kind of. But I love to take events because I love to work with my clients. They're so much fun, and I get to meet a lot of cool people.
What are and I'm sure it's a wide variety, but what would you say is like your ideal client, or who you typically work with?
Well, who we typically work with now is high-end weddings. So we do high-end wedding events, and we do higher level corporate events. But we do fun stuff like company picnics and things like that sometimes. But usually, if people want to have, I always say we're the caterer for foodies. Like if you really care about food, and you like really want it to just. You just really want it to be amazing, then I think that we're the one you hire. I mean, I know that sounds, but I mean that because I think that there's this misconception that catered food should be subpar to anything you find in a good restaurant. It should not be. It should be as good as anything you can find in a good restaurant. So
that's why I was like going to those weddings, man, because I'm always like, when you go to a wedding and someone has like a good caterer, you're like, dang, dude, I like this one. Yeah, like everything's so good. I'm like, oh, it's not just whatever stuff under a heat light, that you're in a line for. It's like
Golden Corral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. But they go all out on the caterer, and you're like, yes, this is good. I like that.
It's hard to find good caterers. Yeah. There's a lot of people that just don't put the care or even just the seasoning alone. I mean, good Lord, there's just so much bland or dry. I mean, I've had a lot of bad catering in my life, and that's not.
Well, I imagine there's a niche in that too, right? Because you have to serve everybody all at once, and the food has to be ready in a moment. Whereas, like with a restaurant, it's like table in, table out, table in, table out. I might make 50 meals over 4 hours.
Yeah,
you have to have 50 meals ready in the same 15 or 20 minutes.
Or 300.
Yeah.
Right.
Or it's crazy. It is highly performative, which is funny because I feel like I've been able to draw on a lot of my experience from my past life. Just like you kind of have to develop, anyone listening out there who might run a catering company knows you have to have nerves of steel. Yeah. Like the pressure is real.
Yeah. Like something's going wrong.
If something goes wrong and you to cook a steak or something for, a couple people is one thing, but to make sure there's like 200 medium rare steaks and you're running, when we bring in all the rentals, the glass, crystal, china, silverware, we handle a lot of the decor, all of the servers moving in tandem. It's like a choreography. I mean, it really is quite a production, and not every job is at that level. Some of them are a little more, more simple, but just the amount of details that you have to be prepared for. It is a bit of a thrill. It's hard work, but it's, I guess that's all I could say about it. It's really, there's a lot to it.
So you said 11 years now?
Yeah.
And when do you think that you got over kind of the proverbial hump?
So the first 3.5 years were running the cafe. I did catering on the side, but I didn't do, we would just do like sandwich platters and things like that. I think when I got into high-end catering, I think it really, it probably took me about 4 more years, 4 more years, just to really get down my systems of like, this is how I handle, this is how I prepare. I think the hardest part though, that it probably took about, I don't know, maybe, a few years of doing it, is to get over the nerves, dealing with your nerves of like being able to walk in and say, okay, I'm in control here. Because you got a lot of people. We have teams sometimes of 25 people working, and they're all in different, and I'm the executive chef and the owner of the company, but I'm an actual chef. So I don't like just own the company. I go in there, and I run it, and so I think that's been the hardest part, is just learning to deal with a lot of people who are all kind of looking to me for direction and going, this is our first time. We bring on seasonal workers, so a lot of times they don't know what they're doing. They show up and they're like, okay, It's giving the orders. It's keeping calm. I think it took me definitely a few years to just get good at maintaining, being calm and collected in that environment. And I wasn't panicked, but it's like there's a sweet spot when you get good at going. The nerves are part of it, and you almost embrace. What is it like? I don't know what the saying is. Like you embracing
game day jitters, or
you have to kind of embrace that feeling, embrace how uncomfortable it is, and then when you do, things start to flow in a really different way. And you almost I've built a culture around loving that. I've actually built a culture in my company of if you feel like we're going into battle here, we're going into this. It's not battle. It's beautiful. It's art. It's like but don't run from the feeling. Like this is part of it. And there's only one way to learn how to do this. You can't go to school to learn how to do high-end level catering. There's no school that teaches it. There's no, you could learn to be a line cook, learn how to be a culinary, like make salads and things like that. But there's nothing that teaches you for.
Do you think that your musical career helped with that?
At 100%.
Just because like that stage moment, right? Like you're going on stage.
Leading a band. When things go wrong.
It's like it's your moment, right? Yeah. Like everything you do, good or bad, is gonna be magnified. You know?
It is. It's
especially a wedding event.
Oh, and it's
Whitney ultimately stopped because of the pressure around each photo.
Oh,
so she basically every year she did wedding photography, and then we had the photo booths on the side. But she every year I'd be like, she's like, I don't know if I can keep doing it. I said, well, then double your price and cut your events in half.
Yeah.
And so she did that 3 years in a row, and then finally by the end, and that's back when storage was a literal disc. And she's like, so you're taking these shots. Well, what happens if one of the discs gets damaged?
Yeah.
And it's the wedding shot. And I'm
people
like,
don't realize how much people spend on weddings.
It's
and
a lot.
The amount of money and the amount of pressure, it's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so that was hers where ultimately she's like, I don't, and then luckily didn't need it to, but versus like mine, that's why I love those moments. And that was the second shooter, so I had no pressure. But I'd come in and set up the photo booth and then take these shots that we'd use one of mine. But I just think that people underestimate that side to being on the other side. I think the families are already nervous. Everybody's nervous, but then you throw that on and then the food's late when the alcohol doesn't work. It's not cold. And you always are seeing people run in the background.
Yeah.
Because there's something going wrong all the time. And I'm like, ugh. So it's, you definitely have to build up an appetite. How do you build your culture that way? That's a really hard one to teach, I think, in general.
You do it. You just lead by example.
Yeah.
There's no other way to build there's no amount of talking that could be done to show people. It's just that when the moment happens, I've had to like really kind of, say to people like, hey, this is where we're going right now in this moment. We're not focusing on that. We're cut out the noise, because there's a lot of noise literally at these events, just cut out the noise mentally, and we're going to focus on where we're going, what our mission is. Or and you have to, I think when people see you working next to them, that is huge. I think, my staff seeing me work next to them, and it's odd. It's a good question, actually. How do you build that culture? I think it's that. I think it's just working with the people when those moments happen, just saying, this is how we're going to do this. We like this. Remember, guys, we like this because we're kicking ass. We're going to do this, and it's going to be perfect, and they're going to be so happy. And the clients feel it too. Yeah. They really feel the confidence of the team and like that we're very capable. So all they have to do is sit back and have a great time. Yeah. It's not like, but it's taken years to get good at that. I don't know where the heck I don't know what inspired me to be crazy enough to do this, but because it is.
Now hearing your story, I think I understand it better though. Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense.
Well,
I don't think you were just going to start a catering company.
No.
Like just now, subjectively looking at it, I don't think that was going to be the story.
But you have that sort of calm, cool, collected mentality. But I also think that I know it's Hollywood, but you watch these like war movies, and I always think of like the general walking down the trenches, and like shots are going off, but like they're the one not flinching. I always you always see like the younger soldiers are like ducking for cover, and like you just have this general like walking through barking orders, and like bullets are flying around, and they're just not even moving. And that sort of lead by example has to happen at some point, because if they see you panic, right, if they see the fear in your eyes, right, if they see you hesitate to make a decision, I think it just goes downhill. So it's like, it's that true kind of leadership, right? In the moment, whether you're a quarterback or whether you're a caterer, I feel like there's that moment, and you have to kind of, like you said, embrace it.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, is easier said than done. But then it's like, well, how do you learn that? And I think it's just reps.
Yeah.
It is.
It's just
It's a lot of reps.
repetition.
Yeah.
It's just
It
that.
is. That's so true.
In a former life, I did a lot of public speaking, and I can remember that, like that switch that you're talking about between like being so nervous to go on stage, like you're gonna throw up, or like, you know, you're thinking about all these, to embracing it, like looking forward to my turn, like, okay, I'm next, like I got a 15-minute spot, I'm after this guy, like I want a more like, but that embracement of it, it changed the whole way I approached it, right?
Totally.
And that's why I asked about your singing, because it's so hard to go move people with your voice and to sing powerfully when you're insecure or afraid or scared. It's like you have to kind of own that moment.
You do. I remember, it's really funny. I told you I went over and spoke to the school, you know, and of all, I mean, I do, you know, first I would, you know, be singing to thousands of people, and then I'm running these catering companies doing these high-end, high-pressure weddings. And I went over there and I got so nervous in front of a small group of students. I was like, these kids are like kids looking at me, and I choked up, and I was in front of them, and I was like, I can't, you know, like I really felt my throat, you know, close up, and I said, but I was just vulnerable. I just told them, I said, you guys, I am so nervous right now. You guys are making me, you know, and they laughed. And I think that that's the other thing, is that, you know, it's just showing some human vulnerability in those moments. You'll find that people are so supportive of you, you know, when you actually are just like, I mean, you can't, you know, lose your mind, but I, you know, like at a catered event or whatever, but it's amazing too. There has been times where someone on the team is going through something tough, and they're just a little more vulnerable. They're just like, hey, I'm just not, I can't, or, you know, we grill over hot grills in 100-degree weather for 3 hours on end. Sometimes we have them lined up and we're out there just grilling, and it's people, you know, they get uncomfortable. And sometimes you can tell people are like, I don't know if I'm used to this kind of work. And you just like, yeah, you got it in you, but you can have that thought. So when you fall, I'll be right here, but we're going to keep going. So
the funny thing about it is everybody thinks it goes away with reps. And I don't think it ever goes away.
It doesn't. You just get better at dealing with it.
You just lean into it.
You just know it's coming, and you know that it's not the worst.
Yeah.
And you know that you can get through it. And I was like, because that's it. I still, every time I go speak, and now I'm getting more comfortable. I'm realizing, okay, if I'm speaking about a topic I don't know, then that's when I probably feel the worst. But like anyone, I'll stand up there, and then I'm like, okay, so I memorize my first two lines.
Nerve-wracking.
First 2 lines every time. And then once I can get 2 lines out, I can get the rest of it out. But it's that knot is still there.
Yeah. And we're talking, you know, we're having conversations, there's breaks, you know. But when I was talking to the kids over at the college, I mean, like, I was just me talking. And I thought, I can't believe that I was like, really, I had a moment, and they were so sweet. They were like, do you need a hug? And I was like, okay, now I've voiced my fear. We're going to keep going. And I got right back on, you know, but it was just like, holy crap, you know. Yeah. So nobody is immune to the feelings of it, you know, but I try to set that example of we're just really mission oriented and quality oriented. And if you make the goal more important than anything you're feeling, it's just simply, you know, I remember being on stage, I would just say, you know, no matter how big the crowd is, or no matter how nervous I get, I have to express this song. That's the end goal. I have to just get my message to them. And then if you make that the goal, then you kind of could forget your own self, your self-awareness of your own nerves, it fades into the background. You can kind of become just part of it. So I use that these days, but
it's interesting the amount of societally, the amount of anxiety and depression and things that happen that I think people get lost in themselves about.
Oh yeah.
And I remember listening to Tony Robbins one time. I'm a big Tony Robbins fan, but he was talking about the biggest way he helps people get over that hurdle is like to have them focus on somebody else.
Yes, 100%.
Or something else, you know? And he kind of goes with that. I think he uses like Mother Teresa as an example or something. But he's like, if you're worried about, you know, serving 12 starving people or making sure that they get food, you cannot eat for 3 days but you're not hungry, right? Like your attention totally shifts to like, I need to help these people eat. And your own hunger kind of goes away. Yeah. And I think so many times our own problems, like just getting to the point, are just because we're so self-absorbed in our problems. Yeah. Right?
100%,
or our situation.
100%.
And it's like, you want to forget your problems for a minute, go find someone who's got bigger problems.
Yeah.
And then yours not only gets smaller, but it changes the way you do things. You know? And another example I love, and I don't know who told it to me, but they were like, all of us would probably be a lot better off if like each one of us made the other person's decisions as opposed to our own, right? So like if I had to decide what you would eat for today,
Yeah.
I would probably pick healthier things than if I
Probably.
decide what I'm going to eat for the day,
Yeah.
right? And if you had to decide what Jordan's next move business-wise was, it would probably, well, you'd probably be more protective. You'd probably be more cautious.
Yeah.
When we worry about other people, we tend to take it like to an elevated level.
Objective.
Yeah.
And yet we do ourselves so wrong so often, right?
We also see a lot of potential in others that they don't see in
Yeah.
themselves.
For
You know,
sure.
Yeah, that's a big one. People, I know that I see so much potential. One of the things I try to nurture in my team, the people that come to work with me, they all have side dreams and goals. And I'm always pushing them like, did you find the spot for your coffee stand yet? Or did you ever finish your culinary school yet? Or did you, like, I love, because catering is seasonal. We have a few people that are just always on the team, but a lot of them come in, and so I get to hear all about what they're doing. But that's a huge part of what I love doing, is just like hearing what they're up to and pushing them along. And sometimes their lack of self-belief, or they have crazy self-belief, which is just like lights me on fire. I love that. I'm like, yes, let's just go crazy.
That,
So when you do hire, talk to me a little bit about that. But when you do hire, because I'm assuming it's like I said, it's seasonal, and people are coming in and out, and they have their own stuff. So like, what's that process look like, first of all?
So I would say maybe 70% of the people that we hire are people that are friends of somebody already on the team. It's always like, oh, I know this woman who's sells flowers and she needs a part-time job, or it's like a stay-home mom, or a guy that, a bartender from Trader Joe's or something. Like, people just know people from their other jobs.
Sure.
And so that's how a lot of it happens. Every once in a while, and I think I'm actually going to be doing this soon, I'm gonna just like actually just open up and say, like, we're hiring, and then sometimes you just open the floodgates and you get a whole bunch of new blood in, and you get all different faces. And we are doing some hiring right now, actually pretty soon, for the holiday months and things like that. So that's usually, I hold interviews, and then I also I ask my team if I'm ever come up short. I just text everybody, like, who knows somebody, and there'd be like 10 people standing on our doorstep.
So what does the process for interviewing them look like, though, or vetting them?
So usually what I do, I like to meet people in person. I just look at them and I make sure that they look like someone I want to be around. I mean, it's
Not like us,
So basically, I'm
makes more
leaving the
sense.
podcast right now.
For anybody just listening.
Right.
No, I usually
No,
make
my
sure
mind
that
goes more to like, if I make this part of my hiring process, I'm going to get sued or something, right? Like,
Yeah.
I looked at her, and she just
Yeah.
goes in, I was like, no.
Didn't have it.
Well, I know that sounds terrible, but you can tell so much by the way someone shakes your hand, by their posture.
for sure. True.
And, they have to be physically able to do it. So they have to, I usually say, like, well, I want to get a vibe for their attitude. A lot of it's just the vibe that they put off. So are they like shrinking
meeting,
back?
do you have is it just is it like a natural process for you, or do you have like specific questions you typically ask?
I do ask them specific questions. I do usually ask them how they handle stress. I ask them how they take criticism. I ask them a few questions that I need to know the answer to. I have different questions for cooks that I do for servers. Usually if the servers and people show up and they have a good attitude, I always tell them there's one way to learn catering, and that's catering. So I'm going to throw you to the wolves. We're going to see how you do. I tell them exactly that. I just tell them what to wear, where to go, and do not be late. And then, I give them some basic guidelines. We have some training, information I send out, that's like kind of what to expect. But really the way they learn is by being around. It's like they learn from their older brothers and sisters, kind of like little kids. They just get thrown in, and then people that are brand new who are wandering around have no idea what to do. The very next season, they're like sharp. I mean, they know, they're like the leaders, and they're doing everything. So they just have to be around it. And that's how we train people. And I
what
tell them
about
too
the
that
cooks?
the cooks, kind of
Chefs,
the
cooks, I
same
don't know
thing.
if
They're
you call them.
cooks. I'm the only chef, so no, just get that straight.
Very clear. A lot of schooling for that.
I'm just kidding. I'm
Earned
totally
every
kidding. No, but yeah, they're a little different. I mean, that's usually I'm looking for a calm demeanor and someone who's highly organized, calm, and clean, and it just really collected. I can't have any and no ego. I just can't deal with the ego thing. I can't deal with that anywhere on my team. So, that's kind of like, I'm mostly just watching them, but I tell everybody, that I meet them in person, then I throw them in and I tell them your first few shifts will be your interview. So if I like you when we work, you'll stick around and I'll call you back for more. But it's a little bit less risky than something like maybe your guys' businesses where you have to hire someone and then they're on your they're on your payroll for a while and you have to like figure out how to get rid of them. Catering is seasonal, so a lot of them are
You got to figure out how to get rid of them.
Well, I mean, let's just be honest with that. It's hard. It's hard when you realize someone's not working out. So, but catering, you just don't call them back for the next job. Don't
like
take that
day
as a
shift.
signal to.
This is my new policy now. Is I'm gonna call you every morning and tell you whether you're working or not. You haven't called me in 3 days. I'm like, nah,
Take it as a
It's
sign.
kind of like that, actually. It's
when
different.
you say that catering is seasonal, what's the season?
So usually it starts in May and it goes to October, and then like a really really busy, crazy, and then we have like October, part of November will be a little slower, and then late November and December hits, and then it's just insane.
Like
and,
holidays.
Yeah, holidays are crazy, and then we have another January and February are you fix equipment, you take some time off, you take a break, you wash the van, you just do all the stuff, fix floors, fix sinks. Gas up the refrigerator. You just like service all the equipment, and you just kind of like keep the place going in those months. And it's slow. And if you're lucky, you get to take a little vacation, get out of town. So I'm hoping to do that this year. We'll see.
I'm sold. I'm going into catering.
Yeah. Hey, if you guys need a part-time job, I'll throw you on the team.
I don't know if you want me.
Yeah, you guys can bartend. We can put you in a bar.
I did bartending at Beacon Hill actually.
Did you?
Yeah, for one whole summer. It was like
Bartending's
perfect
fun.
pickup. Oh, it was great.
It's so fun. You get to meet so many people. There's lots of attractive people at weddings. You get to like look. People watching's great. It's so fun.
Yeah,
It may have been one of my favorite jobs of all time was bartending.
Yeah.
I loved bartending. And for me, I grew up on a farm.
Where'd you bartend at?
Oh, I bartended at, it was not the Big Easy when it first opened.
Wow, yeah.
Which that was a sweet job.
Yeah.
And then I bartended up at some like small bars up north. Like, you ever go to the El Sombrero?
I do. I like those.
Bartended at the El Sombrero. Any just hole in the wall places. But the gist of what I was getting at was like, I grew up on a farm. And so my alternate work was like bucking bales.
Yeah.
Or it was like hot in the sun.
You'd be perfect
dusty,
for catering.
You're
Perfect.
And I was allergic. I'm allergic to two things. I'm allergic to wheat pollen and I'm allergic to alfalfa.
Oh,
And I grew up on an alfalfa on a grain farm. So I had to wear a mask. So I wore like a respirator.
Oh, that's
and
awful.
it was like itchy, like my, like you would just. So like for me, bartending was like, I'm like, dude, this is AC. Like everyone here's got a smile. I can make them laugh. It was the best. And
Well, this has been the best job interview. You guys have done great. You're both hired.
I know.
Ivory Table has 2 new employees, everyone. So
Just call me an alternate, though.
That's right.
Like,
Well,
if just in case everybody didn't call back, you can call me.
Okay, which sometimes happens.
deep
and I'm
alternate,
like,
yeah.
I'm like, oh crap. Yeah.
I would
okay.
have to remember how to even bartend. I feel like that world has changed so much. Not that I was ever a great bartender.
But it's not even bartending. The cool part is you have a couple custom drinks, and then you're pouring beers, and then you're
Yeah.
pouring
then
wine.
I might be
Yeah,
okay
that's what
with
we
the
do.
catering
Yeah,
thing.
so you
That
usually do
might
like
be
a custom,
okay.
like specific batch drink.
I just go to these bars
Exactly.
now and you watch some of these like
Oh, geez,
bartenders.
they're good.
They have a name too, like mixologists or
Yeah,
something,
they're like craft.
But I'm like, yeah,
cocktail,
these
yeah.
guys know what's
They know
up
what they're
and
doing.
gals. Yeah, they know what's up. I was like a 2-ingredient thing. Like I was like, okay, vodka
that really
plus
bartending?
soda.
I think that's, I don't know if that's bartending.
Well, it was the Big Easy, right? It was like Jack and Coke,
Yeah, and
vodka club,
Cranberry.
yeah, vodka cran,
That's
shot of
my
Jäger.
kind of drinks. I
Right.
like that.
we were pumping them out.
Yeah,
Nobody
that's
came in and
great.
ordered a Manhattan.
Oh,
It was like, what?
What is that?
Okay.
That must be a vodka
That's
soda.
so
Yeah.
funny. I love that. You just give them a vodka soda no matter what they order.
Yeah, if you get a chance,
yeah,
Volstead
sorry.
Act of the Peyton, they do really
Oh,
good
yeah.
craft
Yes.
cocktails.
They
it's
do.
really good.
They do.
Bee's Knees, Kentucky
yeah.
Fields, so many good ones.
Oof.
Where do you see this
Yeah.
thing in 5 years? You strike me as a person that not moves on from a commitment piece, but moves on from, okay, I did it. I told you I was going to do it. I did it. Now what am I going to do?
You know, I've been thinking a lot about that lately. I really feel in a perfect world, I would find somebody to kind of come in and maybe I can hand off a lot of my responsibilities to them. I don't know if I want to own it for a lot, for forever. Or sell it, but I'm loving it right now, and it's a profitable business, and so it's hard to like think about like letting that go. But I've always sort of dreamed of turning Ivory Table into more of like a lifestyle, like more of a brand, like even more. Like I have a blog on the website, and really been awful with writing my blog articles lately, so nobody go read those. No, but they're there. But I love writing, and I love, I would love to get back into music, and I just would like to kind of see if I could take Ivory Table though and make it more of a, I don't know, maybe selling things like dishware or books, things that I would love to write a book. I would love to just like write a book about entertaining, or even write a book about recipes that coincide with experiences from the company, like things we've actually been through and done. And then like, here was the soup, or here was the way we made that, on that mountain side when we were, like, there's so many experiences and stories I could tell. So I would love to just kind of watch it blossom into something more than just a catering company. So.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go with the assumption that you will.
Yeah.
And I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah. I hope I do. It's been, it's been a fun, we've had a really fun go. I do feel like I'm looking for the next thing to kind of light me up with, and it could be this company, it could be something else. I mean, I love entrepreneurial, the whole entrepreneur thing. I love ideas. I love hearing other people's ideas. And so, we'll see. To be continued, I guess.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that there is so many phases to business growth and entrepreneurship that you have to be also careful of making sure that you want to run the business that you're growing. And that's what I hear from you, is that you enjoy it, right? Like you might be thinking about the future or other things, but you're like, I'm here. I like this. It's a profitable business. I like doing it. I kind of lean into it. And I think for so many entrepreneurs and business owners that it's like good idea or passion turned business, and all of the fun and excitement of that is great. And then day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't fun. I don't want to do this forever. Like, now I'm looking for an out, right? And it's like, well, you kind of screwed up when you started, right? Because that's really what it is. At the end of the day, all the logos and the graphics and the designs and the ideas and the startup building phase is the honeymoon to, like, what does this look like day to day, every day for 15 years or for 12 years? And that's always my advice to young entrepreneurs that ask me for advice, is like, make sure that you really want to do the day to day of what it is that you're striving for.
Yeah. Well, and that can change too. Forever I just thought if I could just be the chef of this company, if I could, and now I think, I would like to be just the owner, and I would like to replace, I would like to maybe find a way to start moving somebody else into that role, but that would not have been what I said 7 years ago or 5 years ago or something. So you do kind of change sometimes. You think I'd like to, and I'm sure, with the businesses you've done too, Jordan, you're like, you kind of get in the water one day and you're swimming in one direction, and then you're just like, well, hold on, I want to do something. They come to you, these iterations of yourself and your businesses. You kind of change as you're doing it. So I do feel though, like I can feel something's shifting a little bit, and I'm like, where do I find a book deal, or where do I find, the next? I really like the idea of designing things too, like just designing more visually. So whether that be something I could make that, and I think Ivory Table is a cool name.
It's like Magnolia.
It kind of is. It just has this ring to it. I think it has a cool, and we have a really neat, just aesthetically, like anybody that looks us up, we just look cool. Like the whole vibe of the food and the website and everything, it just has, it's stylish and nice. And
it fits.
It fits,
the vibe fits the food, fits you.
Yeah.
It's congruent.
Yeah.
It's congruent.
I noticed that.
So...
Well, can't wait to see what you're up to next.
Thank you.
In the meantime, for anybody who wants or needs local catering, check out Ivory Table.
Yeah, absolutely. Come see me.
I'm curious. I'm like, what's the next event I can have where I can have like really fancy good food?
Yeah.
Already.
You should do that.
Could be our 1 year celebration of the podcast.
Oh, wouldn't that be so fun?
Well, she said she's really slow in January. It's perfect time.
Well, that's right. I did cater for
all
degrees,
of our
so
listeners.
I've
It'll be like
catered
12,
for you already.
13
You have.
people.
I have.
Actually, you've catered a few of ours.
I have.
It is exceptional. I'll give you that.
Those are pretty.
And I bet,
those are good parties.
those were your early years.
Those were the early years.
I bet you probably tweaked it even more from then.
I think I have. Yeah. Well, we have a cute little event space just right down the street. So if you guys want to throw a party, got a space, and you got a chef and a singer. You got all the things you need. So
One man band.
I am so in. I didn't
I'll
realize
just
you
be
were doing
drinking
that. So
wine.
you use your space now for event space.
I do.
Awesome.
Yeah, I rent it out sometimes. But
Is
most
it
of
like
the time,
open to public to rent, or you just, hey, I have a space, you can use
I
it?
need to probably push it more than I always say, we got to get on this. We got to rent the
Yeah.
space. But the thing is, we just keep getting hired
Yeah.
for these huge events elsewhere. So I haven't, but I have hired somebody to sort of take that on now.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll be something that's happening.
It's a really cool space down there.
It is cute. Yeah.
It is cute.
Kristen Ward, everybody, Ivory Table, thank you so much for being
My
here.
absolute pleasure.
Look
yeah.
forward to having you back in the future, and we can continue this conversation when we're doing like the next awesome thing.
Perfect.
So
Bring me back. Thank
great.
you.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thanks.
All right, you guys, thanks for listening to today's episode. While you're out there, would you please do us a favor and give us a like, subscribe, or a follow, whether you listen on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you don't mind while you're there, give us a 5-star review. Maybe write a review. If you have a favorite episode, feel free to give it a like. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it.